Hey, I'm gonna try this video again. I literally just made this whole thing and realized that my microphone wasn't on. It was all silent. All right. Anyways, let's go ahead and work out some of these inequalities. So you're going to be solving these inequalities just like you would do any equation. So, for example, when you see a number in front of parentheses, what you're going to do is distribute it, right? So 2 times 5 is 10. Whoops, sorry, my screen just jumped. Okay, 10. And 2 times negative x is negative 2x. And now all I'm going to do is write the rest of the problem. Plus x greater than or equal to 2x plus 1. Now, everything that you can combine, you should. So there's some x's there that are both like terms. So 10, negative 2, and positive 1 make negative 1x. Okay. At this point, we are going to try to get all of the variables on this left side. So since this is a positive 2x, I'm going to minus 2x from each side. I'm going to line up the variables. So on this side, those x's cancel out, and I just have a 1. And on this side, I have negative 1 and negative 2 make negative 3x. So now we're going to try to move everything away from that x. So the opposite of positive 10 is minus 10. I have negative 3x greater than equal to negative 9. And now I divide each side by negative 3 because this is 3 times x and the opposite of times is divide. So these x's go away. Negative 9 and negative 3 make positive 3. Now, there was one special rule here, and if you remember, the rule was whenever you multiply or divide by a negative number, which is what we did, the sign has to flip the opposite direction. And actually, there we're done. All right, let's try it again. This one's a bit harder because a lot of kids like to start with that fraction, and you actually don't start with the fraction. You're going to actually start with minusing that 4 from each side. Think of this fraction as like grouped together as a whole. So we can't do anything with it until that 4 is gone. But 6 minus 4 is just 2, and then I'll plus x. Now is the time where I can get rid of this divide by 2 by timesing it by 2. But just remember that you multiply the whole sides by 2. So this times 2 and this divide by 2 will cancel. And I do the whole side, not just the first number, but both numbers. 2 times 2 is 4, and x times 2 is 2x. Oops, that's the wrong symbol. Okay. Move the x's to the same side. And then x minus 2x is negative x plus 1 is less than or equal to 4. All right, and I'm actually going to stop there, and I'm going to let you solve the rest of it. I think you could probably take it from there. You're going to subtract the 1 and divide by that negative. Just remember what happens when you divide by a negative sign. All right, let's do some of those word problems, and I get it. They're a little tricky. If your family shares 4 gigs of data, your sister uses twice as much as you, your parents share 2. How much data can you use without going over your family's limit? So the key here is to define your variables first. So it doesn't actually say how much data you use. And when you don't know how much I use, we give it a variable. So I'm going to call my data X. Now, if my data is X and my sister uses twice, then in order to represent that, my sister has to be 2 X's, right? Now, my parents are going to use 2. So basically, if I want to know how much my family uses, it's my data plus my sister's data plus my parents' data. So that's all of us together, me, my sister, and my parents. And I know I'm not allowed to go over 4. So this amount has to be less than or equal to 4. These are like terms, so those can be 3x's. And then we're going to solve the rest of that inequality. Subtract 2 and divide by 3. All right. Last but not least, let's do this perimeter problem. Let me draw it out. So if it says the length is 2 centimeters longer than the width, so I actually, just like my data, how I didn't know what that was, I don't know what the width is. So I'm going to call the width, I'm going to just call it W to stand for width. Now, if the length is 2 centimeters longer, then whatever the width is, the length has to be 2 more. So I could represent that by doing W plus 2. Now, you do kind of have to remember how you find perimeter. And if you remember, perimeter of a rectangle is when you just add up all the sides. So what I can do is add up all the sides. So W plus W plus 2 plus another W plus another W plus 2, and it's less than 30. Okay. See if you have any like terms. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 W's. And then I've got a 2 here and a 2 here. So that is a 4, and it's less than 30. All right, keep going with this. Subtract 4, divide by 4, and you should be done. You're not done here, but I'm going to let you figure the rest out because I think you know how to take it from here. I know that wasn't all of the questions that you had, but if you had more, you can probably send them to me and we can work them out. Or if not, we can schedule a tutoring session so we can do this whole thing live. But hopefully that will get you started.